So the first match for the All Blacks of the November Internationals is taking place this weekend up against the Irish in Chicago. Should be an absolutely outstanding game. And in this video, I will be trying to predict what Scott Robertson will select for his lineup. And I don't think we'll be expecting drastic changes compared to what we saw throughout the Rugby Championship. New Zealand, they have to go with a strong team here, as the Irish will be more than up for this challenge after beating New Zealand the last time these two sides met on US soil. But jumping straight into it, for the front row that I am predicting, Scott Robertson will be going with number 1, Ethan de Groot, number 2, Cody Taylor, and number 3, Fletcher Null. I really can't see a way that we see any sort of curveballs here from Razor, unless of course there is some sort of injury that pops up throughout the week. But Ethan de Groot is a very strong scrummaging option. Now, you could argue that there is a chance of Tamaiti Williams starting as the number 1 and then maybe de Groot making his way off of the bench. But Ethan de Groot, he was strong throughout the Rugby Championship. Him and Fletcher Null, they have partnered before at international level, and they seem to both work well with Cody Taylor, so it makes perfect sense to have all three as the front row. Now, Taylor has been in some great form, and of course the All Blacks line-out going to be so crucial throughout this contest. They had quite a bit of success throughout the Rugby Championship with it, and I feel like some of that success can definitely transfer over here if they keep the same foundation and don't try and chop and change a massive amount. Dan Sheehan, more than likely the starting hooker for the Irish, and also they will have Tyke Furlong and Andrew Porter in that propping department, so you want a strong scrum too. I think that's what these three would offer the All Blacks. Moving on to the locking duo. This is where, for me, it is pretty straightforward in terms of what Razor would select, unless, of course, he is going to throw a little bit of a curveball in. But number 4, the captain, Scott Barrett, and number 5, Fabian Holland. It is a duo that we've already seen from the Kiwis. Now, they don't have the option of Patrick Tuipulotu due to an injury. They also don't have the option of Tupavai after his injury just at the end of the Rugby Championship. But there's a little bit of an intriguing situation happening at the moment, and that is the fact that Naitoa Akoi as well as Isaiah Walker-Leawiri have both been taken out of the New Zealand 15 squad. Now, at the time of this recording, there has been no clarification as to whether that is injury related or whether that is because they've been called into the All Blacks side. So perhaps there is an injury that we don't even know about, or they just want to have that little bit of extra depth available when it comes to the locking duo. They have also got the option of either Sam Derry or Josh Lord here, but I do see them sticking with the Barrett and Fabian Holland combo for this match in Chicago. Moving on to the loose forward trio, and this is also where I don't see a massive amount of change happening for New Zealand. Number 6, Simon Parker. Number 7, Ardie Savia as the co-captain. And then number 8, Wallace Satiti. Peter Larkai, I think that he would be a very good option for the New Zealanders in this contest, but I also think that him making his way off the bench would be just as strong. So that may be the idea that Scott Robertson does also have. He's got Finau in the squad, who could add a little bit of extra height in that number 6 jersey if necessary. Also, that little bit of locking cover in there as well. They've got Karefi, who I just don't see getting the chance for this match, predominantly because of the fact that he is just normally the 7 rather than offering the other 2 positions. And then the other man that I haven't mentioned is Luke Jacobson, and who knows, maybe he is somewhere high up on Scott Robertson's list as a potential loose forward. But I do see them trying to stick with some sort of consistency in that loose forward trio. So Parker, Savia, and also Satiti, I think, are the 3 that we will see. Moving on to the backline, number 9, Cam Roigard. Not a massive amount of debate when it comes to who could be starting in this contest, unless, of course, they wanted to mix it up, have Roigard his impact off of the bench, but more than likely he will be in that starting side. Number 10, this is where I do see them starting Beauden Barrett. Mackenzie's impact off the bench has been felt in each and every game that he has played that role. Beauden Barrett in the starting lineup alongside Cam Roigard offers you a huge amount of attacking threats. The Irish, they are quick around those breakdowns. One of the quickest, if not the quickest side at international level when it comes to ruck speed. So you do want to have that sharp combo for New Zealand here too. And Roigard and Barrett, even if some people still don't feel like Beauden Barrett is quite the man for 10, he is also a guy that could have an absolutely phenomenal game here up against Ireland and completely change the momentum of the entire match. Moving on to the midfield, and this is where I believe we will see his brother in the number 12 jersey, another vice-captain for New Zealand, that being Geordie Barrett. He did consistently get minutes throughout the Rugby Championship. In fact, I believe he played every single game in that number 12 jersey. He hasn't had a huge amount of breaks, but he also has a lot of experience with a lot of these Irish players. He was playing for Leinster throughout the URC, so anyone who has been in that Leinster side, they know roughly what Jordie Barrett can do, but he also does have that inside knowledge. So it could be quite a handy player to have out there on the field. Now, it could actually backfire, and maybe they do work out exactly how Jordie Barrett is going to play, which is why you need that bit of X factor at number 13 for New Zealand, and this is where I believe they will select Quinn Tupaia. Even though he is a 12, he has played a little bit of 13, although not really recently. I believe the last time before the end of the Rugby Championship was about 50 games ago for Quinn Tupaia, so it has been quite some time, but he had a man-of-the-match performance from that number 13 jersey, so I know for a lot of New Zealand supporters, they would rather see Tupaia in there somewhere than missing out or making his way off of the bench, so that is why I believe they will select him as that 13. Not sure what they're going to do with Billy Proctor just at this point in time, and actually the same could probably be said about Rieko Ioane, whether or not he finds himself anywhere in this side, although you would have to think if he's been selected with the team, Razor would have some sort of plan for Ioane, as well as Proctor in the back three. This is where I believe we will see Caleb Clark out on the left wing side. Now, he did suffer a bit of an injury in his most recent game of the Rugby Championship, but I believe he is available, would be extremely handy under the high ball. The Irish, they have got some quick players in that back three, as well as some very safe men under the high ball. So that is where you need Caleb Clark's aerial ability if you are the All Blacks. In this match, number 14, this is where I don't see them making any changes from what we saw at the end of the Rugby Championship. So that would mean Leroy Carter would get himself another All Blacks cap. He already has the 3 tries to his name just in 3 games. He has that ability in the breakdown and also will just absolutely throw his body on the line. James Lowe, more than likely in front of him for this contest. And Lowe is a very physical man to mark. This is where Scott Robertson may even look at someone like a Sever Reece just for that international experience. But I think the better option in this scenario is to give Leroy Carter yet again another chance. Number 15, this is where I believe we will see Will Jordan. No real curveballs expected across this side, I have to say. Ruben Love, it would be great to see him get some sort of starting minutes throughout November, but if it was going to be a match, I don't think it will be this game up against the Irish and the US. But that is the starting lineup I am predicting. Now moving on to the bench, and this is actually where I believe it does get a little bit more tricky for the All Blacks. They've got some great players who have been left out of the starting side, and unfortunately only 8 of them can be selected off of the reserves for this contest. So number 16, I believe they will select Samisoni Taukei'aho. Number 17, Mighty Williams. And then number 18, Pasilio Tosi. There is the option of giving Tavita Mafileo his international debut for the All Blacks, but I don't think it will be this game. More than likely Scotland next week is when we could see Tavita Mafileo get himself that chance, although there have been a lack of minutes for Pasilio Tosi in that number 18 jersey, or even in an All Blacks jersey in general, ever since he did join up with the squad. They've also got George Bower, and you wonder whether or not Razor may look in his direction for that 17 role, but I think to Mighty Williams, for that physicality and size later on in the game, that could certainly bode well for New Zealand. So the Williams and Tosi combo. George Bell, another player that maybe does get some sort of minutes throughout November for New Zealand, but Taukei'aho, he's been a great impact player off of the bench for the Kiwis throughout the Rugby Championship, can do exactly that same thing in this match against the Irish. Number 19, this is actually, for me anyway, the hardest jersey to predict across the whole side, because they have got 3 options that I believe are all, you could say, justifiable in this number 19 jersey, those being Sam Derry, Josh Lord, and actually Samipeni Finau. Now, I know that that's probably a little bit of an interesting choice, the Finau option, but for some reason, I feel like there's a chance because of the fact that he can cover lock as well as loose forward. He was actually listed as that in the squad announcement as well. It makes me think that for that versatility, they may actually look at giving him the chance in that number 19 jersey. So, for that very reason, I'm selecting Samipeni Finau as my predicted number 19 here. Number 20, this is where I believe they will go with Peter Larkai. There is a chance, like I said, maybe Satiti comes off the bench instead of starting, and Larkai does get that number 8 kit, but I do think that Larkai's impact off the bench, alongside Samapeni Finau, that's a bit of physicality for the All Blacks to be able to use later on when there is a little bit more fatigue starting to set in. But I feel a little bit more safe with my prediction of Larkai or Satiti at 20 than I do with Finau as that 19. Moving on to the back replacements, number 21, this is where I feel we will see Cortez Ratama, number 22, Damian McKenzie, and then number 23, Lester Whainanoko. He offers you a lot of positions across the back line, can play in the centres as well as out on the wings, so a very versatile player and the perfect man to have as that number 23. There is a chance that they look at someone with a bit more experience like a Leonard Brown or maybe even a Rieko Ioane, but I do think Lester showed enough in that game up against Australia in match number 2 to at least get himself a bench spot for this contest, so that is what I'm predicting for that number 23. In terms of the Ratama and McKenzie selections, I really don't see anything else happening here, unless, of course, there are any sort of injuries that could pop up throughout the week. This is being filmed relatively early, so things can happen, and if they do, of course, that will warrant some sort of selection switches for Scott Robertson. But nonetheless, that is my All Blacks predicted side to take on the Irish in Chicago. Of course, do let me know who you think Scott Robertson will be selecting. I believe the team will be announced on Friday, New Zealand time, so of course, as soon as it is, we will be letting you know exactly who made the cut for this game. But thank you all very much for tuning in. We are also doing the commentary for this match between the two sides on the channel, so be sure to check that out too. But thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.